Hi, and thank you for tuning into my Feldenkrais channel. Today, we will be doing the awareness through movement lesson, thinking and breathing. This is the last lesson from the book Awareness Through Movement by Moshe Feldenkrais. Please find a quiet place where you can focus and come to lie on your back. Bend your knees and stand your feet a comfortable distance apart. Close your eyes and just breathe. Notice as you breathe in, the breastbone and ribs move forward and upward. The muscles that cause the breathing movement in the upper part of the chest also pull the neck vertebrae forward. When the chest widens to allow us to inhale, the diaphragm, the muscular structure below the lungs, drops and flattens out, which helps to increase the volume of the lungs. As you exhale, the chest is contracted and the diaphragm regains its curvature upward. Now, as you breathe, start to observe your chest in your imagination and feel how it pulls your right shoulder between the collarbone and shoulder blade every time air is drawn into this section. As you inhale, air reaches this point from the middle of the body, about halfway between the breastbone and the floor, where the lungs are. The chest sucks the lung into various directions at once. The right shoulder, between the collarbone and the shoulder blade, in the direction of the ear. To below the armpit, to the shoulder blade resting on the floor, and the front of the chest. Leave it, rest on your back, and just breathe. Now imagine the passage of the air as it enters your nostrils and past your palate, the roof of your mouth, into your windpipe. Think only about these points every time you breathe in, until all the parts are familiar to you. When this section has become clear, follow the air in its passage from there to the right upper lung part. Now go back to the nostrils and repeat it. Feel what happens as air comes in through the nostrils, goes from the back of your palate, through the windpipe, to the air that flattens the lung against the walls of the chest and is itself forced upward, downward to the floor, toward the shoulder, and armpit. Leave it, rest on your back and just breathe. Imagine the path of the air entering the nostrils and flowing past the palate into the windpipe and then into the lower part of the right lung, where it borders on the liver. As you observe this path, keep in mind the space around it, the direction in which the air presses around the liver and against the hips, forward, downward, toward your legs and to the sides. Now with each breath, follow the path of the air through the nostrils, past the palate, to the windpipe, and into the whole right lung, upper and lower. And imagine the right lung expanding. Its upper parts move up and its lower parts down at the same time. So the whole right side is stretched and the distance between the pelvis and the armpit is increased. Observe if you feel anything in your lower back as you do this. Leave it and just rest on your back. Now imagine the middle part of the right lung. Try to think of the passage of the air all the way from the nostrils, past the palate, into the center of the right lung. The stretching of the right lung, upward and downward, has in any case already stretched it in the middle as well. Now, in addition to this expansion, the lung will also be expanded forward and backward. A few times, try to bring all the previous focus points together and notice which sections you can feel clearly and which you cannot feel at all. Continue until the whole process is clear and becomes continuous for you. Now, think about the shrinking of the right lung as you breathe out. The air now moves back from the top of the shoulder, from the shoulder blade and the chest, returns through the windpipe, past the palate, and comes out through the nose. As you breathe out, the air is squeezed from the lung as from a sponge. Also imagine the same action in the lower and middle parts of the right lung. Observe how the lung moves back from the diaphragm and the ribs, from the direction of the floor, and from the breastbone, and forces out the air. Breathe slowly, in an ordinary way, so that you can identify the entry of the air, the lengthening of the right side, the expelling of the air, and the contraction of the side. Slowly come to standing. And observe the difference you can feel between the right and the left side. Observe the marked difference you can feel in your breathing on the right and the left side. You might also feel that your right arm and leg are longer and lighter than your left. Maybe the right side of your face feels different. Your right eye is wider. Come back to the floor and lie on your back again with your knees bent and your feet standing. As you breathe in, this time feel the air go in through your nostrils, past the palate, into the windpipe. But now imagine the air going into the left upper lung part. Feel the air flatten that part of the lung against the walls of the chest. And that is itself being forced upward, downward to the floor, toward the shoulder and armpit. Leave it and just breathe, lying on your back. Feel the air go into your nostrils, via your palate, into your windpipe, and imagine the air going into the lower part of the left lung. As you observe this, keep in mind the space around it as well. The direction in which the air presses against the lower ribs and the hips, forward, downward, toward your legs and to the sides. Now with each breath, follow the path from the nostrils, past the palate, into the windpipe, and then into the whole left lung. Imagine the lung expanding, the upper parts up and the lower parts down at the same time. So the whole left side is stretched and the distance between the armpit and pelvis increased. Note that the left lung is smaller than the right, as it needs to make space for the heart. As you keep breathing, shift the focus on the way in which the left lung shrinks as you breathe out. The air moves back from the top of the shoulder, from the shoulder blade and the chest. The lung moves back from the diaphragm and ribs, returning through the windpipe, past the palate, out of the nose. Feel how the left side shrinks as you breathe out and lengthens as you breathe in. Leave it. Slowly come to standing. And observe what you can now feel on your left side. Come back to the floor and sit with your legs crossed. Close your eyes, bend your head forward, clasp your hands and place them across the back of your head, letting the elbows hang down loosely. In this sitting position, again think of the passage of air through the nostrils, past the palate, into the windpipe. Watch the stretching of the right lung to the shoulder blade, at the top, and down past the liver, and also through the middle. See whether in this position you can think that you feel your lung slide inside past the whole length of the lining of the lung. Notice at which points in your thinking the lung does not slide freely. When you have identified these points and can imagine them easily, your head will bend forward farther and more easily. Bring your hands down and your head up and just rest in sitting. Come back to the cross-legged position. Clasp your hands together. Bend your head forward. Have your hands on the back of your head with your elbows hanging loosely. And this time, think of stretching the left lung. Observe how the head slowly begins to rise with each breath. And notice how the breath spreads all along the spine with the movements of the head. At the points where the spine is stiff and the chest does not move and does not suck the lung after it sufficiently, it does not slide. Continue until you can think that it does. See whether you can identify the movement of the diaphragm pulling the lumbar vertebrae. Let go of this observation and slowly get up. Walk around and notice the difference you can feel after you have made much of the breathing process conscious. Come back to the floor again. And come to a side-sitting position. Bending the right leg back and bring the left one close to you in front. Lean on the floor with your left hand. Tilt your head so that your right ear approaches your right shoulder. Stay in this position and fill your left lung with air. In your imagination, stretch it on the left side up into the shoulder in the direction of the ear and downward at the same time. In this way, the lung will slide to fill up the entire space on the left side of the chest. Breathe out and imagine the withdrawal of the lung in the whole chest. Notice your head will no longer be sunk down onto the shoulder. Leave it and rest in sitting however you like. Come back to the same side sitting position. And now imagine the lengthening of the right lung. And then its withdrawal from the walls of the chest when you breathe out, and the feeling of shrinking. And notice that when you observe what's happening on your right side, the head and the whole trunk lean to the left when you're in the lengthening stage, and return more to the middle when you breathe out. Slowly come to stand one last time. And check the changes you can feel in your body now. Thank you for joining this lesson, and I hope I see you again in the next lesson. If you've liked the lesson, please give me thumbs up or subscribe to my YouTube channel.